All right.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your Sunday to be with us. My name is Andrew Snorton, and every second and fourth Sunday, I'm so excited to be a part of our Authors Roundtable series, all about the authors. Again, every second and fourth Sunday about this time, about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central. We're excited to have at least two guest authors to come in that are sharing their work, the themes that they cover, the different projects they have going on. So that way you guys get a chance to find out more about this great network, this great system of great writers doing great things. Even if it's your first time being with us and your first time connecting with the authors here, including yours truly, please don't let this be the last time. So please, share it. It's public. Share it with your favorite readers, writers, book clubs, book festivals. So that way people know, hey, look, there's some great people doing great things. So I'm really happy and excited to share this platform. Before I let my co-host, the celebrity source, Tyra Satai, say a couple things, just as a quick reminder, you can just real simple connect with me on Facebook at author Andrew Snorton, and I'll be sharing this. Instagram, um, Twitter, and YouTube at author A Snorton, and then just email me at authorasnorton@gmail.com. And we'll recap all this other stuff later. But enough of me. I want to pass it over to Ty. And then, Ty, go ahead and let folks know a few things. So go ahead.
I am super excited. That's my word. I've been saying it forever, and here I am again. Just to be alive, to be on top of the ground, as the old people say, and to be able to just share this time and this space with my partner, my co-pilot, Arthur Snorton, and these two amazing ladies. I'm always excited to one, be alive, and just to meet new people, like-minded people, goal-driven, just tapping into just additional resources and being a resource as well. It's about a give and take, receiving and giving as well. And when we have these roundtables, and for me, I'm just always excited for the opportunity. It's a new day. We got a new president. We got a new vice president. I was talking about that earlier. I'm not gonna go on and on about it, but I just have to say, whoop whoop! Finally, praise God. I know we all are excited about that because it changed the whole trajectory of our lives as well. And we talk about being authors and just having a spotlight. It's beyond just this circle. It's about we think global, and we think about how when we have the right leaders in place, how it affords us an opportunity to do even greater things. So I just had to do that little shout out. Super excited to have Dr. Flowers and Ms. Vogt on. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As Drew said, we're going to let you just have the floor. Please, on All About the Authors, we encourage you to toot your own horn. People will not know who you are. They will not know what you do. They will not know the value of you, your book, and your whole resume if you do not tell them. So we're going to ask you some probing questions, opening questions, but by all means, if it's something you want us to know and the world to know, because you never know who will tap into this, make sure you share it. So I'm going to hand it back over to the maestro, Andrew Snorton, and then I'll come back.
Wow. Well,
I'll come. You see who got the looks and who has the flavor, right?
Oh gosh, thank you. I don't know if that's. I'm just gonna take it in the spirit in which it's given. But our two authors today, I tell you what, we use the word great often, but it really does epitomize who they are and whose they are. Both are really just some amazing people, some amazing resources. And ladies, I don't know who wants to go first, but hey, I'm just going with the flow right here.
We'll let Dr. Flowers have the floor.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, awesome. So Dr. Tiffany Flowers, Tiffany, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, and thank you, Tori, for allowing me to go first. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk about a couple of things today, but I wanted to start by asking if you have any questions for me before I get started.
I'll tell you what's great.
You go ahead.
What we always like to do, let people know where you're from, where you're based out of, and what are some key themes that you've covered in your previous work, as well as what you're about to embark on with your upcoming work.
Okay, so I'm originally from Chicago. My mother, I'm actually a third generation artist. My mother was one of the Organization of Black American Culture Revivalists, and she helped Gwendolyn Brooks and other writers revive the writing workshop in Chicago. And so many other writers came out of that tradition. And I was the only child that was allowed in the workshop. And so I saw firsthand how people were creating works right now. And so that training that my mother gave me, and meeting people like Hakeem Mahabuti, who is the editor and the creator of the Third World Press, it really gave me this energy to want to start my own press. So during college, I would write stories down. Every job that I've ever worked on, I remember working at the State Department in Georgia, I would write stories. And I remember my coworkers would just come and they would read over my shoulder because they were like, what are you doing? Because every single day for the entire year, that's all I did was write in journals. And I filled up probably about 45 journals, just writing every day. And you would be amazed at how much writing you could get done in that time. And so I started, as soon as I left the State Department, I started my small press called Golden Butterfly Publishing. I started in 2008. And the goal was to look at the creativity gap within children's literature. So wherever there is not a story that I believe that African-American children should be able to read or enjoy or have access to, I try to fill in that gap. So I wanted to talk to you about just some of the stories that I've worked on as of late. Some of the things that we've done, we have a lot of people who write books and they tend to write more picture books. So we tend to publish books that are more chapter and series books. So I wanted to share one with you today. This is one in a series. It's called Nandi Time Traveler. And it's about a little girl who's technologically enhanced by her mother. And she and her brother Kiyande, they embark on saving the world. And so I wrote this particular book because there wasn't a book on the market that was anything like this. You start to see a lot of superhero books, but you never see both a boy and a girl superhero. It's almost never a girl, okay? So, that's the reason that I and so they're twins. So the covers actually look the same, except they're just separate books. So one of the things that people kept asking me as I was going out marketing this book, and this became pretty popular, is how come there aren't other journals or materials that children could use? So I created a journal to go with it. So then I started hearing from boys, well, I like to use more tactile materials. So we created a puzzle too to go with the series. And so we started, like branching out and, you know, merchandising much more of our books and selections and things like that. So again, we tend to work on more, I know a lot of authors that are working on picture books. We tend to work on fuller stories. So this is one by Tony Lindsay. It's called Almost Grown. It's a collection of short stories for African-American, with African-American characters, both boys and girls. And typically you don't see this. Sometimes you see a collection just for girls or just for boys. And immediately when people look, they think it's an urban fiction book, but it's not. It's actually a collection of short stories. So those kids that maybe they don't necessarily want to read an entire book, they could get this and just read some of the stories in the book. So those are just some of the things that we're doing to try to create materials that we know children will want to read. We have tons of, I don't know if I can share my screen. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let me go ahead and, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to just show you the website just so you can see just some of the materials we have. And just see how we have it organized. This is Golden Butterfly Publishing. And we have picture books, chapter books, books for tweens, books for teens. We have journals, sketchbooks, coloring books, activity books, and I'm starting on the educational material section. So our main claim to fame is that we're focusing on the creative gap, because in 2015, I did find that only 4% of all published books were books by or about African-American people. And that included illustrated books as well. So we mainly have, the majority of our books are mainly chapter books. So there's the Nandi book, there's the Kiyande book. We have one about a little girl. I actually had a teenager who wrote this. It's called Kenya's Missing. This one is about the case of the disappearing graffiti artist. I wrote a book about a little boy in Chicago who found that the police would not investigate smaller crimes. And so they only invested in bigger city crimes. So he started a detective agency with his best friend to solve all the crimes in the neighborhood. This one is Becoming a Guardian. It's a story about a little boy named Atlanta, Georgia, who finds out that he's part of a mythical clan of guardians, and he's tasked with going back in time to ensure certain events in Black history take place. So the first person he meets is Garrett Morgan. He has to convince him not to give up on the patent for the traffic light. And I'll share this last one with you. It's Noah the Little Scientist by Chanel Wilden. It's actually one of our best sellers, and it's about a little girl who wants to be a scientist just like her mother.
Wow.
So those are just some of our books and just some of the collection. And I don't want to take up too much time because I know Tori has to go, but when we come back, I don't have any problem with you all asking questions about what else is going on with our company. Thank you, Tori, for allowing me to go first.
Oh, you are so welcome. Wow. I'm so excited about your work. I want to read those books.
Right?
Yes, yes. Great, great content. So my name is Tori Vogt, and I am a two-time best-selling Amazon author. Last year, I published a book called You Got This, Letters to My Younger Self. And becoming an author has been in the works probably all my life. I was told in high school that I could write professionally, but I had no idea how to make that happen. I'm actually a first-generation high school student, in addition to being a first-generation college student. So really didn't have any clue. And it's so funny how this book just ties it all together. So, you know, a lot of times there are some very uncomfortable circumstances out of which great things are born, typically. You know, a lot of times we just wait until we get pushed into the corner by life and come up with a solution. And so that's what happened to me. 2 years ago, you know, I was at the height of my life. I had raised my kids. I had gotten an MBA. I was working in my dream job. I was running an international program for a software company and living in a loft in downtown Atlanta. On paper, everything looked like perfect, like I should be so happy. But I was battling with depression. I was quite overweight. I'm 5'6", I was 273 pounds. And I just was so depressed and so blue. And this went on for months and months. I really didn't want to be here. And the only thing that kept me here was thinking of my 3 adult children and my 2 grandchildren, and you know how hurt they would be if I wasn't here. And so, you know, I just kind of got up every day, went to work, came home, went to sleep, and repeated it. So I looked in the mirror and I just kept seeing this train wreck waiting to happen. I started feeling the symptoms of heart disease, and that scared me a lot. So I started on a weight loss journey, which actually ended up in me losing 90 pounds in 9 months. That was around May of 2018. Fast forward to June, on Father's Day of 2018, I got a call, and I was in Hilton Head. I got a call that my best friend had passed away. She lived in Philadelphia where we had met, and I had lived for many years until I moved to Atlanta in 2004. I had just seen her a few months before when she was here in Atlanta for the Bonner Brothers hair show. She was a hairdresser, and she was younger than me. She was a single mom of 4 daughters. She was a businesswoman, a pioneer in her industry, and I was just shook. I couldn't believe it. It had no indication that she was sick, and you know, this was something that happened very suddenly, and it really shook me to the core. So come back to Atlanta 4 days later. My whole team gets called in by HR. We're all laid off. And 2 weeks later, I turned 50. So in a matter of 2-3 weeks, my whole life had changed, and I had lost two things that probably, meant the most to me, outside of my children. And so they say things happen in threes. So I'm hearing God's voice, and I'm like, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? And I started to get really scared because, who knew I might be like my best friend, Leslie. What if I only had 6 months to live? What if I only had a year to live? And I said, okay, God, what is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that I need to do? You have my attention. You have stripped me of two things that, mean probably the most to me. And he said, the book that I've been telling you to write for years. And I had started on books. I had manuscripts sitting, and I just ran from it. I just ran from it. And I said, so I started working on a book for trauma survivors. That is something that I have survived from, is childhood trauma and domestic violence, and have really thrived and excelled and become successful in spite of that. And nobody knew all of that stuff. All people saw of me was the successful professional, mother, board member, and nobody knew those dark and painful parts of my past that I had overcome. And so what, I heard this voice saying is, you're not helping people when they only see the glossy side of you. There are people right now, there are young Tori Vogts at 18 in high school that don't know how to get where they need to be. And they're facing a lot of the situations that you emerged from. And so the only way that you can help them, or what I need you to do, is show them those dark and painful parts, how you got through situations that they're dealing with now, and manifest the life of their dreams. So I started working on a book called 6 Lessons from a Survivor. But I knew that it was going to take time to put that together. And I just kept feeling the sense of urgency. I mean, I was scared. Anxiety had taken over. My voice was cracking every day. When I talked, my fingertips were like cold and numb. And I was just nervous, like something bad was really going to happen at any minute. And so I said, okay, God, well, what if I only have a month to live? What if I only have 2 weeks to live? What is it that I can leave people with? What can I leave on this earth? And he said, what would you write to your younger self? So that's how I got the book. You Got This, Letters to My Younger Self. So I just sat down and I started writing these letters. And I wrote and I cried, and the well of tears just poured, as I began to write these letters. And I came up with basically 5 core principles, or things that, I wish that I had known at 18, at 15, at 14, that, you have everything that you need right now to be successful. It doesn't matter if you don't have money or you have a lot of money. It doesn't matter, what kind of family background you came from, if you have a lack of family support, if you are in foster care. It doesn't matter if you're the ugly duckling, or, if you're a person who everyone looks to with all this pressure on. You have what you need right now to be successful. And so I got the book written and I published it last year in August, and it actually went to #1 bestseller in Amazon in 2 categories while it was yet in pre-sale. But this is not something that I ever planned to do. I really ran from sharing those painful dark sides, because now I'm exposing things myself and becoming very vulnerable to the world. But when I wrote and published the book, there were so many things that manifested in my life. Not only did I get a job offer that doubled my current salary, okay, but I had people come to me and said, you know what, I'm 62 years old, and when I read your book, it immediately addressed issues that I have been struggling with my whole life. And so in December of last year, I became a certified life coach. And I'm just very blessed every time I get a phone call. I get people, that I've known from other chapters in my life that, found out I wrote a book, and, they call me and say, hey, I read your book and it has changed my life. What was really on my heart at the time is I was seeing people who, like very successful, like Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain. And you wonder why, and even young Black men, why are these suicides? Why is it people who seem to have everything going for themselves feeling so hopeless? And so, that is what I hope to have touched in people, is to find out, where are those broken places? Where are they hurting? And let people know that, there is hope, and that, you can change your life right now for the better, and you can create the life of your dreams. So in a nutshell, this is the book. You Got This, Letters to My Younger Self. You can buy it on Amazon. Also, you can visit my website, which is boldbreakthrough.com, with a U, BOLDBREAKTHRU. And you're just really excited to have a tool that is, like the other author mentioned, kind of short chapters. It's not a long read, but it is a tool that will help you look inside of yourself and immediately transform energy from traumatized places, and help people spring into success.
Wow. Thank you. That was amazing. I felt some of the pain when you were talking. My book is called Follow the Fire: For Ordinary People Chasing Extraordinary Dreams. And it derived from it started from my childhood. Some of the things, some of the chapters tap into, and you probably feel this way as well. You may have surpassed that because you were feeling like you were running out of time, but there are things that I didn't say, but I did say a lot. And as I was writing the book, I was healing myself.
Yeah.
When I talked about the little things that happen, and just kind of going back and forth, and just the correlation of Dr. Flowers, like people think that kids forget. So there's an impression on kids, and they need an outlet, if you will, to deal with some of the things that's going on in their lives, because we don't forget. We can be 30, we could be 40, we could be 50, and we still have that little 8-year-old, that 5-year-old memory, thought, feeling that sometimes haunts us. And I understand what you mean when you say, when you look on paper. For me, I felt like I was most likely not to succeed, if that was a category in high school. So I purposed myself to drive and push to be everything people said that I couldn't be, and nothing that they said I would be, and I feel like a lot of things I would have taken a different direction if I wasn't so focused on not being that, or being something just to prove that I am something. And when you become grown and you feel real grown and you feel empowered and you really don't give a damn what people say, you do want to go back and write a letter, or go back to yourself and say how you should have, or would have, or could have handled certain things. But you can't for you, but you can for others. And so I commend you. I definitely want to read your book. I feel like it's very similar to probably something that I'm saying. You know how you read something like, or you go to church and the pastor's preaching and you say, that's for me. But like everybody in the church is saying, that's for me, and I just think you both of you are just extraordinary authors. And I love the fact that it's so amazing when Drew picks. Sometimes we do it together. Sometimes he's so proactive that you'll catch his attention. He's like, I got to get him now. And I trust him so much in his opinion and how he do things. But sometimes we have two people with very similar stories, and then sometimes we have people like you two queens that have you're coming from two totally different directions, but in all, it's still purposeful, because you're talking about a little girl or a little boy that's a superhero, and that's what we need. We look to our parents or our teachers or our pastors and people, the big people in our lives when we're little, to be our superhero. But finding a superhero in yourself when you're dealing with stuff that nobody's saving you from is kind of what I'm feeling from Dr. Flowers. Like I have to find my own superhero. And even when you're 50, you got to go back to the 8-year-old and build a superhero so that you can actually not just, pull that memory, like really pull that memory up, because we suppress it. And that's why we deal with a lot of depression. And reflect on that thing, lay that thing out, talk about it, and be able to become what God truly meant us, to be. So when I think about just what you both shared, I just commend you. And I believe, I want to thank you for sharing that, because there's a superhero in both of you. And what you're sharing is allowing everyday people to learn how to be superheroes to themselves. So just beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I want to throw a couple of things out there in just listening to both. And obviously, things that come to mind are your self-image, your self-worth, seed planting. We talk about optics. Dr. Flowers, reiterate to our viewers again, when you were doing your research, the percentage breakdown that you saw of works that were featuring people that look like all of us in here, and stress, really why it's important, not only the work that you're doing as an author, but as a publisher, what makes that so critical.
So when I started out, I started the publishing company when I was in graduate school. And the reason that I did is because at the time, I believe there was between 2 and 3% of all books featured African-American characters. So now it's at 6% because we're starting to make a dent, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. And what people have to understand is that when we talk about the percentage of books, the large majority of those books are picture books. They're not chapter books. They're not novels. They're not, collections of short stories. They're not sci-fi books. We're only starting to see more of a boom in sci-fi in the last 3 years. Before that, we had pretty much Octavia Butler, that was it. So we're starting to see more of that now. But the reason why it's so critical is because if you think about the years that children do not read, especially African-American children around that grade 2 through 3, if you look at the books, there are no books. There are no books that look like them. At one point, I think I had 9 books in 3 different chapter series, and I had the most on the market. And it wasn't until I ran into a rep at a couple of events and they saw what I was doing and they started producing those books. So what we're doing really does make an impact. And we always think, oh, well, I'm just doing 1 or 2 books, but people are watching what we're doing. There are people who follow me on LinkedIn, some of the publishers, they're watching what I'm doing. And every time I come up with a concept, 3 years later, I'll see where they've picked up that same concept. I'm happy about it because I really I'm serious. I'm happy about it because I really want us to get to the point where there are so many different types of books out there that look like us. Right? So when I think about, going forward and thinking about what I'm trying to do, I'm not just trying to create these books for African-American children. When I go to book festivals, the majority of children who buy my books are not African-American. And usually our librarians and teachers who need them for their classrooms, right? So I think about I don't know if you all are familiar with Nancy Lyric. She was the former president of the International Association. Years ago, she wrote this piece in the 60s where she talks about the negative effect of not having representation of Black children in books. And so she talks about it from the perspective of being a Black child and what it means to not have that type of representation and the damage that it does to not see yourself in print and not understand the importance of people viewing you as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a nurse, as a scientist. She talks about that. But she also talks about the effect of what it means for white children to never see Black people in that way, right?
Wow.
If white children see Black children in that way, or Black people in that way, they think they believe that they are the kingfish in the great pond, right? So it instills this idea that there is just so much privilege in being white, and that nobody else can ever measure up. And she talks about this in this article. This is a Nancy Lyric is not African American. This is a white president of the Literacy Research Association. It's one of the most
deep
in the field of literacy. And before I started my company, this was one of the pieces that I wrote along with Jacqueline Woodson, who can tell my story, because she was talking about a lot of these authors who are not African American penning these books, right? So it's so important, not just for our children to have it, but for other children to see other people in print, other than characters all being white or all being another race. We need to make sure African Americans in print. And a lot of times that leadership in the field in terms of publishing, that is going to come primarily from African American authors and publishers, right? I think about Just Us Books. I remember meeting the husband and wife duo in Virginia probably 2 years ago when they started that press. They have more releases than Jump at the Sun. And Jump at the Sun at one point was in every elementary school in America. But Just Us Books is still an independent, flowing press, and they're still doing what they need to do. I think I am the third largest press. And then there's 2 other presses behind me. One sister started, I think, Crystal. She started her press probably 5 years ago, and she has about 10 books under her press. So we're the ones that are providing the leadership, and we're the ones that are creating these images that our children are going to see for generations. That's it.
I think that's so dope that you shared that, because that was just a moment for me, when you said that, we look at as adults how other races view us, but it didn't start as an adult. It started as a kid, like you say, if they only see us being the help, then it seems very unusual. We're considered a token when we're the VP or we're the owner. I remember my friend having a very upscaled boutique, and some young Caucasians came in, because you wouldn't think just from the location and just the presentation, right? And they asked her, can you, she was just stopping in, and there was other people there. Actually, she had Caucasian working there, right? Because, again, it's a mental thing. And they immediately went to her for help. And she was the owner. She didn't mind helping, but it was just the idea of, you're the help. They own it. You're the help. And it was the opposite. But if we don't portray that, if we don't deliver that image at a young age, then that's what they expect. And just hearing you say that, I never thought of it that way. Let me ask you a question. So do you feel like when Wakanda came out, this was like a movement? This was like having President Obama. Like, we didn't know what a Black family, a functional family, looked like in public. We were blown away more by his family dynamics than we were the fact that he was the president. Like, wow, look at them. They really love each other. They really show affection. That they're both educated. Like, a lot of people were really blown away by that, So when I think about your book, immediately when you started talking about it, I started thinking about that. Like, in our generation, this was the best thing we had to the image that you're now giving our children. That movie, we dressed up, the churches went, we took buses, like it was huge.
Right.
What you're doing is very impactful, but tell me, like, with what you're doing, the correlation of how you saw that coming together with what you have going on as it relates to your books.
Well, to be honest, like after it came out, I started, I would post some of my books online. I'd say, hey, we have Black books for Black children. And the likes on Facebook, I ended up getting like 1,000 likes in a week. It just wow. People started to realize the importance of representation. You see children dancing on the desk, they doing little Black Panther dances, ensembles. So after a while, people were like, well, wait a minute, let's diversify not just the films, the books and things like that. So I would get calls from people to do book events at schools. There's a brother who I can't do every single thing because I'm also a professor too, so I can't always stop and do it. I'm
right.
Books to put them out for children, but I would. There's a brother that owns he owns the largest African American children's boutique, children's literature boutique in Atlanta. I think it's in Decatur. He would get calls repeatedly to go into schools, and he would do a traveling book fair. And he would bring all the books and have the authors there to sign the books for the children. And he would people just calling him left and right. I couldn't even get him on the phone. I was like, hey, is everything okay? He's like, I'm doing like 3 events today, because after a while, I just see the importance. And, to be honest, I really don't think before that film, people saw the importance. I think there are people like me who are visionaries in terms of, I think it's one thing to say, well, I want these things. It's another thing to actually buy the books. It's another thing to actually promote them. It's another thing to actually write reviews of the books. You know what I'm saying? So I think that before that time, people were like, oh, that's good you're doing that. But after, people were like, I really need to buy like 10 of those books for my kids. Because I'm looking at their book collection and they don't have any African-American books, right? And it wasn't just Black people that were saying this to me. There were Asian families that were coming to me at, calling me on the phone. Latino families saying, listen, we have a lot of Black in our family. Do you have any Latino? I'm like, no, I don't have any, but I know a publisher that does, so I was referring them out to other people too. And I would get called by a lot of parents who were like, what can I do to get my child to read? They said they really like movies like Black Panther and comic book. What else do you have? So I think that movie really brought it home for a lot of artists that were doing this work for years, that really wanted to get that outlet. And I'm going to say, honestly, I've been doing this since 2008. I definitely don't think that was a reality beforehand. So.
No. But it's just amazing how people, that's just our culture. I mean, we got to just all pray. We have to pray for each other because that's our culture. And a part of not just our culture, but I would also blame it on society as well, that a lot of times we don't get people until something, just a movement, kind of like the movement with Stacey Abrams. Like, she was there. She was great. She was that thing. She was powerful. She had it. She was purposeful. She was qualified, but she was denied until later. Now she's all over social media like she's the baddest. She been the baddest. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, and I thought about that because in my mind I was thinking about what kind of everybody support. Like when I say churches, everybody, and I'm like, you've been in the cut. Dr. Flowers been in the cut trying to tell y'all we need a superhero, but you didn't get it then. And so timing is everything. I don't think I don't think we'll ever be able to control how, society so much, our people move and the time, our time capsule when we decide to get it. But that's why it's so important to operate in your purpose and your gift, because the words say that your gift will make room for you. Didn't say when it was going to make room, right? And God's time is not our time. So while we're around here, playing around with other action figures, you got the real deal for us. And we didn't catch it until Wakanda came out, then the whole movement came. And I know you had to be tickled, like, look at this shit. I mean, stop. I didn't mean to say that.
Well, so
okay. Where I had the book like probably 12 years before they came out with the movie. This is not the first time. You remember, I have copywritten about a Black super spy, and I had that way before Smith came out with that movie. I haven't put the book out, but I had it copywritten 10 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So it happens all the time. It really hit me because I wrote this book called the Hot Freshman 15 series about these high school girls, and I'm probably on like book 4 right now. But that series from Netflix, On My Block, have you ever seen that? The On My Block series on Netflix? No. I've seen it. My goddaughter saw it and she was like, "You have to see it." So we watched it together. I could have wrote that entire series. That's what, like, when I see stuff like that, that's what makes me think that, because the books that I'm writing are so similar to that. So I know my time is coming. I just really want to be, for me, and probably Tori can relate to this too. I really just want to be prepared so that when the opportunity arises, my work can be elevated. But for now, I'm good with just writing and getting my work out there in the hands of children. And then maybe later it may manifest into something much larger.
Here's something I wanted to, and I wanted to pick on that theme and direct it to Tori. And I think all of us to varying degrees understand the importance of staying ready. Tori, once you got through that delay, because like you said before, it was always in you, and all of us to varying degrees have had that nudge or that kick in the shin to finally get it done. But walk through with us now that you've got, you had the breakthrough. What are things that you do to stay ready? Like, do you think about revisiting some themes? Do you think about building on some other territory? So what are some of the things that you do to help stay ready?
Sure. So I took a step back and really thought about, how I could reach more people in the way that they needed. So, I got the website built. I have courses that I have developed, and I present them both, one-on-one through my life coaching, also in group settings, as a speaker, but also, on-demand modules on my website. I also, going back to the book itself, I'm having it translated into Spanish. I'd like to have it translated into several other languages. And this is a volume 1. So definitely there are more volumes coming. In addition, this is letters to my younger self, but I'm also looking at the idea of writing a book. What would you tell, what are letters to your older self? Because I think a lot of times younger people need to be heard, and we're not listening to them. And so, like you said, a lot of times people get stuck at the age where the trauma or the hurt occurred. They're 8 years old, and you might be 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, but you're still operating in that space of an 8-year-old until you go back to that time and reconcile it. And a lot of times people just need to be heard. And so I think this could be a tool to help bridge the communication gap between generations. And even, if nobody ever sees it or reads it, for a young person, to get it out of their head and onto paper, like my therapist told me, and to help them with their goal setting. So those are several things that I'm doing right now to stay ready. And the opportunities really came in like a flood. It actually kind of got overwhelming. And I had to really prioritize, what my time and efforts would be, what makes sense and what are, how can I say, sustainable and scalable. And so those are the several things that I decided would be the best route to go in terms of planning and being ready for, future growth.
Can I ask you a question? You look amazing.
Sure. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And look, and I know people say you were beautiful when you were overweight, but, and you were. Have you thought about, and you may do this already, but have you thought about doing maybe a different kind of separate venture with writing and focus in on that part of it? Because that 90 pounds was like a whole person.
It was.
And I know, yeah. And I think about that because I used to get picked on because I was skinny, and they used to say I'm 90 pounds wet. So when I think about that, I'm like, that's a person, It
is.
I don't have a problem now, but thinking about the correlation to when you said I said so much good stuff, and I'm trying to separate it with, I suffer from ADHD, okay? So God is still healing me from that, but I get excited because I'm trying to remember exactly how you said it, but it was almost like you looked at yourself in the mirror, and and you saw something and you didn't like it, and it just started feeling like you were in a rush to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talked about the book and you talked more about some things that happened in your past, but just like focusing in on that, so many people deal
Mm-hmm.
with not necessarily, I mean, I know a lot of people eating because of things that happen to them,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
just if they could get control of the
Mm-hmm.
weight piece and how, does this make sense what
Yes,
I'm saying?
it
Because I'm
does. It
trying
absolutely does
to
because
remember exactly what you
yes,
said, but I
yeah,
want
I
to make
felt
it
like
make
my life was a train wreck on paper. Everything looked beautiful, looked successful, but I was hurting inside. I was dying inside. I was self-soothing through food, which I realized I had been doing since I was 8 years old. If you look at my pictures, suddenly in third or fourth grade, I became the fit girl, the big girl. I was a normal weight before then. And I directly remember using food to self-soothe. And so, I struggled with this my whole life. And then I had a pretty bad year. I think emotionally before that, I started drinking a lot. I started eating things that I knew I shouldn't eat, and I stopped working out. And I'm telling you, I gained about 60 pounds in less than a year. So it put me, and I was already overweight. So it put me at that 90 pounds. And I just remembered, okay, problem solving. How can you eat the mountain one bite at a time? I said, what is the one thing I can do to help make a change in my life? I said, I know I can lose the weight. I didn't know how much I would lose. If somebody had told me that I was able to, how I would look, or would have been the result after 9 months, I would have been surprised. But I had a great doctor, Dr. Michael Imani from Nile Wellness, who just helped. He walked me through every day. He walked me through it. And even, this all ties in together because a lot of people self-soothe in different ways. A lot of time is through overachieving, like you mentioned, proving that you are somebody. All right. A lot of time is through it's through substances, it's through drugs, alcohol, gambling, shopping, sex. And so it was an emotional journey. Like I told my doctor, it was never about the weight. Because I started having cravings and things, and he said, this isn't normal, you shouldn't be hungry. And I said, but I am. And so then that's when he got me to start journaling, and that's when the release and the breakthrough came. I was able to go back and meet my 8-year-old self and allow her to have a talk with the person who abused her and who never allowed her to have a voice. And it did bring healing. And so with losing the weight, people who have known me and my coworkers were asking me, because they saw the weight dropping off like this, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so for that has opened up so many conversations for people to share their struggle with weight. And 90% of the stories I hear, it all ties into some type of trauma in their life. And so that opens the door to share what this book is about, and to share. And they saw, if she did it, I can do it too. So I started an Instagram when I started on my weight loss journey. It's Queen Ma'at77, because I knew that whenever you go to lose weight, people are waiting for you to fail. And I knew if I put on social media, that was going to hold me accountable. And I definitely am my own hero. I'm going to win no matter what. Okay. So that has been somewhat of a platform, but I do think that is a great idea and concept, and they all work together as far as your self-image, your perception. Yes, and people treat me different 90 pounds lighter. People respect you. It has shown up in jobs, in doing business.
It's crazy.
And personal relationships, the value that people, because they say, well, if you can't even control yourself to manage your weight, then how can I believe you or trust you or even respect your decision making? And it's bad that people can be so superficial, because everybody's struggling with something, even if you can't see it on the outside. But there is a judgment on people who have weight issues, and yeah, and the world does treat you differently, at least in our society.
Thank you for sharing.
Even though you are beautiful at 250, 300, 350, 400 pounds, and you're that same person.
But we would like to see you just take that to, if God give you the vision, and kind of, you know, maximize that for people who are struggling, because I know a lot of people who are struggling, and it's, you know, I always tell people you can't give directions to somewhere you've never been. You know, a lot of times people are looking for something from people who've never even experienced. A lot of times you have people that's doing exercise videos who've never been over 100 pounds. So it's easy for them to do exercise videos. People need to see people who've been through something to encourage them that it can happen. And, you know, I could see that, you know, not trying to, you know, be God or nothing, but I could see, I could see that being a book as well, tapping into that weight loss part of it. Drew, you got some amazing women. I am, you know, sometimes I get super duper excited. Today I'm super duper excited.
Well, and it comes back to why we're doing this. And number one, there's just like, you know, Tiffany alluded to it with the percentages. I know in one of the interviews I had, you know, especially with the book I did on baseball, knowing in sports media how few those numbers are in those lines. The thing that I love about with each and every time we do this, number one, is just great people. I mean, seriously, everybody we've had on, great people. Number two, the narratives that everyone's bringing to the table, whether it's the first time or the 18th time, it's still speaking to somebody who needs to hear it. I think about, especially with Tiffany, especially with her focus on youth, you know, on doing that seed planting early. And she helped our nonprofit with one of her children's books. I don't want to say many moons ago, but once upon a time, and what have you. And the rolling up the sleeves that she's doing, you know, with Tori, and we've said this a number of times. People see us where we are, but they don't know what we've been through in order to get here. Or like Tori was saying, everybody to some way, shape, or form is fighting some type of battle, whether it's like that little gnat that you're trying to catch or that sledgehammer hitting you upside the head. Everybody's dealing with something. And, you know, to be able to open up to different parts of your journey, it's part cathartic, it's part of a checkpoint. Before I've criticized where I haven't gotten to, let me take inventory of where I started to where I am now and celebrate that forward movement and use that energy to keep going. Those are things that people need to hear and need to read, which makes these whatever you want to call it, fireside chats, whatever. That's what makes this so important. It really does.
It does. And I want to just commend you as well, talking about your book. We were just talking about your book. I think we had about a 2-hour conversation about your book, but I was just sharing with Dr. Snorton, if you haven't had a chance to tap into his library, his book about baseball. I remember us talking about it, and I remember him posting on social media and just being, you know, a proud friend. And a lot of times it's crazy because we just talked about this as well, how you get traction from things. Your heart is in one place, but then you tap into something else, and the thing that you may have not thought would have moved is where you get your traction from, right? And so I was like, you know, I'm looking when he would post the baseball, and I'm not abreast of baseball. I'm a football girl, Saints fan as a matter of fact. But I'm watching when he was posting on social media the different the different posts from the baseball games and the write-ups, you know, and the articles, and I'm looking at people just like really tapping in, responding, hitting like, being more engaged, you know, more interested. And I'm like, you need to be writing, kind of like I just told you, Miss Tori. You need to be writing something on that. I love to tell other people what they need to write on. But, you know, I'm standing back from a consumer and an honest and genuine place, because some people don't want to see you win. They'll see a vision, but not tell you, because they don't want you to go. They don't want you to blow up. But I'm seeing this, and he was like, you know, God had already kind of put that in his head, and he had started kind of stirring up the gift, right? But, you know, it's just like what he's doing is kind of similar to as Dr. Flowers, where you're showing our generation, our younger generation, that not, you can be a baseball player, and if you're not a baseball player, you can be an author, you can be a journalist, you can be out there in the field, on the court, on the sideline, capturing it. Because people need to see, because typically when you think about it, when you think about sports, for us, it's the football, it's the basketball. You do see African Americans in baseball. I'm not saying that, but when I start seeing, when I'm reading our generation, and I say our, saying like, you know, 30 plus, saying, how did you get there? How did you get to do that? That let me know that they didn't even know it was still possible to be an African American with the credentials. And he has, you know, he got those fire credentials, you know, he's stacked up with the credentials, like he got all access. So they like, how did you do that? So that means, hey, can we still do this? It's so much stuff that we don't even know we can do. And it's up to us, when we have the opportunity, and God afford us the opportunity to have favor to walk in doors that other people can't go in and never been in, to be able to show and explain and share and coach and even develop some people with the skill that this can happen. And with his book, it's just like a playoff, you know, the superhero, if you will, that, you know, these are some things that happen. This is how it happened. You know, he got pictures with some of the players, and it just, you know, for me, it makes me feel good to see that, you know, that we're taking a stand on all in all areas in life, if you will, and showing that, you know, we got heroes, we got people, and we got everyday people, like my books say, you know, ordinary people with extraordinary dreams and powers and gifts that the world needs to know about, and it's up to us to do it. So y'all get his book, because it's fire.
Well, hey, thanks. Well, hey, this is a team effort. This is really where this, no, seriously, what I like about what we're doing today, what we do every second and fourth Sunday, it's about, again, there's some great authors doing some great work that people need to know. It's putting it that simple. And to be able to share your platforms is so important. And you think about, even if people don't remember all the themes that we're covering, they know it's possible to go into writing. They know it's possible to go into coaching. They know it's possible to go into publishing. Optics mean a lot. It's not absolute, but it sure gets the conversation going. And it's important for people to simply know. And what happens is, like, what you put out is what's going to come back to you. Seriously, what you put out is going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form. And like all of us have said, all of us can point to things that we stayed as ready as possible. Some things we anticipated, and some things we had no clue were going to happen. And I think it speaks volumes to everybody here regarding, you know, your grounding, your dedication to your craft, and knowing you're leaving some seeds behind for other people to plant and cultivate and grow and be able to push this further. So I think as we want to get ready to kind of, you know, wind down, I'd like, again, starting with Dr. Flowers, and I'll close out. So if Dr. Flowers, Tori, Ty, and then I'll close out. Starting with Dr. Flowers, please remind people where you're based out of, your publishing company, the best ways for people to stay connected and engaged. And if you've got any releases on the horizon or virtual talks or festivals or what have you, please let people know. So now people can't say we didn't know you were coming. And that really goes for everybody. So let's start with Dr. Flowers.
Okay, well, thank you. So best way to get updates on our releases is to look at goldenbutterflypublishing.com, our website. But we typically release information about our releases on Instagram under Golden Butterfly Publishing, Twitter under it's @PublishingGold, and on Facebook. And we have the largest following on Facebook because that's where we started. So some of our upcoming releases, Tony Lindsay is putting out another book. It's called Chestnut Checkers, and it's a short urban fiction tale. It's excellent. I think you all will enjoy it. I'll be putting out another book probably in January about a little boy who comes from a chanel of cattle ranchers. And so I'm tapping into that tradition of the Black cowboys, which you rarely see. Also, Chanel Bolden contacted me. She actually is Dr. Chanel Bolden now. She has a PhD in biological sciences. She'll be putting out a second installment in the Noah the Little Scientist series. So we actually don't have events because of COVID. We usually do at least 2 large book festivals per year, and usually in the summer. But if you contact me at tflowers@goldenbutterflypublishing.com, if you have any questions, I can send you updates on all the authors that are touring, because I don't tour anymore. I started out doing that before I became a professor, but I don't tour anymore. So if you want information on our tours, I can send you the information on the artist stops. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers. Tori, please let people know again where you're based out of, how people can stay connected and engaged with you, as well as any upcoming things that you have.
Right. So I'm based out of Atlanta, and thanks to technology, we can touch people anywhere there's internet access. So my website is boldbreakthrough.com, and that's BoldBreakthrough. Also on Instagram @boldbreakthrough, and on Facebook @Tori Inspires You. And my books are available either through my website, boldbreakthrough.com, or on Amazon. And it's You Got This, Letters to My Younger Self.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tori. Okay, Ty, because you wear the writing hat too, let people know the best ways for people to stay connected and engaged with you and things of that nature.
Once again, thank you, ladies. I am Teresa Ty, author, celebrity source, all of the above. Just go to the bio, check my website to get all the goods. I have a series of journals, much like you, Tori. I am a writer. I believe in writing the vision and making it plain. So I have several journals that you can choose from. I also have my book, Follow the Fire, and you can find it on Amazon, or you can go to my website at www.fireFIYAHTeresaTy.com. You can follow me on all social media sites, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at FIREFIYAH Teresa Ty, TYRESSATY. You can also email me at teresaty@gmail.com as well. Much like Dr. Flowers, I know everybody know me from jumping on planes, being a jet setter, but due to COVID-19, we haven't been able to move around for the last 8 months, and we've had a few things going on. So a lot of the things I have is background stuff. I am super excited to have my upcoming 7th year Divas and Dolls initiative, where we have a collaboration of women that are movers and shakers and have a love for community and kids, where we make sure that every little girl in the world has a doll for Christmas. We are the champions. We are the women. We're out there making moves. And I believe that God charged us to make sure that we take care of the little girls and teach them principles. We don't just give out dolls. We give out principles. We are an example. We show them what you grow up and what you could be and what it looks like, a real life person, if you will. So definitely want everyone to just chime in, tap in, share, participate. That's the number one thing on my program right now is Divas and Dolls 2020. And that's pretty much it. I just want to thank everybody for giving, receiving, and just this moment in time. And of course, always a shout out to Dr. Snorton for making this happen.
Hey, thank you, Ty. And like I said, it really is a team effort. So again, stay connected with me on Facebook at the page Author Andrew Snorton, Instagram, Twitter, Author A Snorton, YouTube, Author A Snorton. You can email me, authorsnorton@gmail.com, and the preferred site would be asnortonccs.com. That's the business site for the education-based services, press and media, and then the writing services. And in that menu, you can click on the author info. Briefly, one of the books that they're talking about, Nothing Minor, there you go, Nothing Minor. This is in hardcover and ebook. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple. I'm already in Metro Atlanta, Young, Gifted, and Black Children's Books and Workshop, as well as Nubian Bookstore. So you can pick up your copies there. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Detroit Book City, because this time last week, I was part of their virtual festival. So shouts to Janice Hayes and the folks up there. One quote that I'm going to read real briefly, and I think it kind of sums up when we have those delays, or you have to kind of keep your naysayers in check. But this is a quote from one of the people I interviewed, Travis Demerit, who's actually now with the Detroit Tigers. And his backstory was he was drafted straight out of high school in the first round, meaning he was one of the top players nationwide. And it did take him, quote, a little bit longer. But the key thing is he's in the big leagues. He got into his first big league action last year of Detroit after getting traded. And even this year, even though they didn't play minor league ball, he was back and forth between Detroit and the practice squad or the taxi squad. But he said something that I think is really applicable, not only in the game, but just beyond. And so the quote that he has is, "Don't give up, silence the noise, continue. If it's your dream and that's what you want to do, don't let anyone deter you from it, and stay resilient." So for anybody out there that's looking at ways for self-growth, improvement, and people are trying to kill your dream, filter out that noise. And even for us, sometimes we get in our own way and we have to be still and be quiet and filter out the noise. So that's one of the many lessons beyond the game that I think, is definitely applicable, and I think definitely fits for today. And shouts to Emery Rose Photography for helping with a couple of the chapters. And another shout in regards to piggybacking off what Dr. Flowers said, there's a chapter on the Negro Southern Leagues Museum in Birmingham, Alabama. Many people might not realize they have the largest archives of Negro Leagues memorabilia. And on top of that, they are reopened. You just have to call and set your appointment. But in regards to how effective it is, it's on the same block as the ballpark where the Birmingham Barons play. And many people don't realize the Birmingham Barons, who are the AA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox, they take their name after the Black Barons from the Negro Leagues. So every time the Birmingham Barons go out, they're actually paying homage to the Negro Leagues. But another thing is this year is the 100-year anniversary of the league. So I thought it was real important to make sure to have that piece of history and provide some optics and provide some seed planting that everybody's doing. But this is going to help wind us down. Again, this is what we do every second and fourth Wednesday about this time. We are so blessed to have great people coming on doing great work. So to, Dr. Flowers, keep building, keep growing, keep doing the great things you're doing. Thank you for your support historically. When I was up there last year, I'd be remiss when I did my signing at Fiction Edition. So thank you so much for supporting. To Tori Vogt, who is doing some great things and expanding. You keep building and keep expanding. And then, of course, to my co-host, Tyra Satai, you know, it's, hey, that's my friend right there. But you talk about someone who is still making inroads and still making an impact. You keep doing what you do, and whether, and like I've said before, whether it's 5 or 5,000, you're still making an impact. And that's all there's to it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for today. Again, even if it's your first time joining us, don't let it be your last. And even if it's your first time hearing about any of the authors, please do not let that be your last time. And as quick as we are to share some nonsense, share some substance. And we're just going to leave it there. So until next time, seriously, until next time, all of you, take good care, be blessed, be encouraged. And whether it's slow or swift, movement is movement. And on that note, we're going to say good day, and we will see y'all real soon.
Happy Sunday. Be blessed. Be safe.
Definitely, definitely. You just finished watching All About the Authors. Make sure to add All About the Authors 520 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And make sure to check us out. We'll see you.